Okay, we're back in the Titans route, and we're going to go back to one of the main storylines. How do we not unlock Yazan? Well, what the hell, we'll hit it with Scirocco. He's got good mobile suits, and I'm kind of looking forward to getting out of the generic machines. I've been running those for the last several hours of play, and it has been several hours of it. So yeah, let's get into something more powerful, better performing. Let's trade in the station wagon for a sports car. Okay, well, in keeping with mobile suit-related commentary, the Masala here was designed by Paptimus in order to maneuver in the heavy gravity of Jupiter. Now, I kind of question the logic of that, because yes, Jupiter has heavy gravity, and that gravity would be felt even if you weren't... I almost said on the planet, but you're not going to be on the planet because it's a gas giant. There's nothing to be on. You could be in the planet, which would be bad. The pressure would crush everything, pretty much. This is basically just a more advanced gun tank. You just spam the main guns. It's even got a pair of missile launchers for those enemies that are protected by a pesky eye field barrier. God, reviewing my footage, I have misnamed so many things. I referred to a warship as a mobile suit. I claimed that the Nemo was the successor of the Jagan when it was the ancestor, or I referred to the Jagan as the ancestor of the Nemo when it's actually the successor. I have been verbally all thumbs. Oh, that's one of ours. I thought because it was a gym. Never mind, it's in red, it's one of ours. The computer knows, because it's not an applicable target. Yeah, it's got these gigantic back boosters, because it's intended to maneuver in heavy Jupiter gravity. Now, I mean, that became a theme because the Crossbone Gundam also has gigantic thrusters on the back for the same reason.
Everything's going as planned.
But yeah, Paptimus designs mobile suits. Like, in terms of a key antagonist for this series, Jared's got nothing on Scirocco. Aside from being acknowledged, if I'm not mistaken, I think TV Tropes listed Paptimus Scirocco under the trope for mimetic sex god. He designed like 4 mobile suits, they're all top-of-the-line machines, and this guy went up to the Titans, basically stated that his mission statement was going to be the same as the AUG, and they still took him on. They still took him on as a pilot, and it's like, wow!
Alright, let's go.
Because that's the thing, you think of I think of Jared, I just think of whining. I think of Paptimus, I just think that, goddamn, the balls on that man.
Let's go.
Which is why he's a mimetic sex god. Goddamn the balls on that man.
So, Scirocco's coming after me.
Ah, there you are. Scirocco, follow me. Our target is the Jubilee. You two, swing out and flank him on.
Obviously, you're unaware of what this Jubilee can do.
Yeah, they were definitely projecting the O vibes when they designed the Cerevi Gundam. I do love Gundam 00. It's a shame they don't have the Gaza D in this game. They got the Gaza C. I mean, I suppose the Gaza D wasn't featured in Zeta Gundam, but it wouldn't be the only mobile suit they have in this that wasn't in Zeta Gundam. Probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Ow. What the? I thought she was bailing! So if we lose Rekkoa, it's over. Because this is where Sarah is supposed to die. Holy, that was a lot of hurt that I just narrowly avoided.
What did you do to her?
You've been very kind to me.
Because that's the interesting part with the O. I mean, it looks super chonky. However, it's mostly thrusters and fuel tanks to feed those thrusters, because in terms of propellant, this thing, by the nature of how many thrusters it has, must be a thirsty mobile suit. And that's sort of a trend that you see with Scirocco's mobile suits, particularly the ones that he pilots personally. Oh, we killed him on before she could F off. Cool. That doesn't lead into any non-canon thing that I'm aware of, at least. But the thing is, it makes sense that for Scirocco, fuel would be no concern, because his home base is, I think it was called the Jupitris, which is literally a tanker ship carrying, like, helium-3 from Jupiter, which is fusion drive fuel, essentially, and propellant fuel. So, I mean, fuel for him is no object. His base is literally a giant tanker. So, of course, he's going to design mobile suits that just guzzle fuel, gasoline, whatever, like crazy.
Let's go. All right, let's go. Follow me.
I mean, Paptimus outlived Jared. He's a more interesting character than Jared. He was the true main antagonist of Zeta Gundam. I mean, Jared's in there just trying to stay relevant, like, I'm Camille's rival. Yeah, you keep telling yourself that.
Damn, Scirocco. Any more damage to this thing would be
Now, canonically, the beam rifle used by the O here has a replaceable E-pack, so it doesn't have a built-in battery, but they didn't model that in-game, probably for balancing reasons, because if you could just swap out the battery charge like you would with the Gundam Mark II or something, this thing would be hilariously overpowered. It's got an incredibly strong melee. It has a blocking ability.
You've made a poor choice for your final round. Still want to make something back and forth.
Give it a rest. Feel it. Screw you, type Schnar. A mongrel like you must be told. Understand? Not yet. It isn't done yet.
You know, I find it interesting that Scirocco would call Char out for failing to become a real new type, considering that the whole point of the new type theory was to understand each other without preconceptions. As pointed out in Gundam Unicorn, which is probably one of the best Gundam OVAs, in my opinion. And it's like, it's not like Scirocco understands other people without whatever. Or maybe he does, and he just still feels like he has some innate right to rule over them. I mean, he was one of the more powerful new types that we encountered. He was able to psychically cripple Camille just by doing a thing. You know, no fancy biosensor, no psychom... I don't even think the O had, like, a psychom cockpit, so that was just all Scirocco. I nudged him out of the battle zone. He just sort of like, ugh, and he reflexively fell over out of the zone.
Everything's going as planned.
Because, yeah, maybe I'm wrong and the O has, like, a psycho-frame cockpit, but to my recollection, it did not. And that's kind of my whole point, is that he was able to do a psychic attack on Camille
I'm launching.
just with his brain. I mean, sure, Armoro and Char had the whole Axis shock with their psycho-frame cockpits, and then there was the whole Unicorn Gundam, which could basically become a physical god. That was essentially the idea there.
Scirocco, where are you?
I mean, because that's the funny part, because Camille didn't beat Scirocco through skill. He didn't even really beat him through new-type power. It was the biosensor in the Zeta Gundam, which was very much a phlebotinum MacGuffin that just caused the souls of all the people that had died up until that point to just manifest and freeze Scirocco in place. So Scirocco wasn't even outperformed by Camille. He had just built up this massive karmic debt with all the death that had just happened around him. And Camille had a machine that could manifest that energy. That whole plot point felt like a bit of an ass grab. Like, okay, I can't really rationalize how that is supposed to work. Besides, what does a biosensor have to do with basically serving as a medium for the dead? That doesn't make any sense. Then again, some might also argue Scirocco had the cognitive capability to cripple other minds, weaker minds, whatever. Why didn't he do that before? Is it something that destroys his mind and he just did it because he was already done? I mean, you could always try to fan-splain your way out of that, but the ending of Zeta Gundam had a lot of... It felt rushed, I think is maybe the notion there. It felt rushed, like more thought could have been placed on it. So that level 1 upgrade definitely helped with Scirocco, because that was brain dead easy, but it also helps that he's got a decent mobile suit.
Everything's going as planned.
I've gotten used to just playing the everyman mobile suits, and... Oh. Okay, Scirocco has survived, the Titans have been defeated and vanished from history. Though Scirocco still lives, he has lost all hope of realizing his ambitions. Can history be changed? Can the fall of the Titans have been prevented? Or could the fall of the Titans have been prevented? Decisions made in combat can change the course of history. Not in his route. Not in this one. Because he's... The main Titan differentiation is Operation Apollo, which he's not a part of in the canon route. We gotta do the whole thing with Jared, which isn't even unlocked yet, because we have to beat... It's one of the pilots that the Titans have for the 1 Year War specifically. Once we beat their route, we get, it's like a Lala Lives, or whatever, equivalent, and that unlocks the bonus route for the Titans. But anyway, that has been Scirocco. I'm probably going to have to bundle his with somebody else, because it's like 4 battles and it's over. And it was brain dead easy to boot, because I'm actually using a mobile suit that's worth the damn. I guess we could do Buran. His is also pretty short, even if he lives, because he operates on Earth, primarily, if memory serves. Ashamar.
All right, we're heading out. Don't fall behind.
Yes, the Gaza Sea. I probably already mentioned it, but the transformation mechanism in that thing is so fragile, it has to be completely rebuilt after every few deployments. They fixed that with the Gaza Deep.
We're going to try to escape in shuttle. Stop the launch and capture the AU.
That's another weird thing in Gundam, because... So the 1 Year War basically had no transforming mobile suits until they expanded the canon, pretty much. And the thing is, of course, you gotta figure that Gundam has a key merchandising thing, the models, the toys, whatever, and they want to sell that. And around the time all this transforming mobile suit stuff came out, you have things like Macross and Transformers that are really big.
What are you doing? Come on, be strong. It's good.
Yeah, that's actually really powerful if you can get it to connect. It has like a warm-up. I've used all these mobile suits so often, I know all the tricks. Ooh, that was not intended. Doesn't matter. So just time it right.
This is it, Ayug.
Oh, Camille's bailing.
They're
Because transforming mobile suits have been a little touch and go in the One Year War timeline. I mean, they've been featured in other Gundam works all over the place, sure, but all of a sudden Zeta Gundam comes out with this notion that, oh, transforming mobile suits are innately superior because in their alt forms they act like mobile armor, they're more agile. I mean, the argument then becomes, well, why not just build a mobile armor? Oh, because it can't do what a mobile suit does. Yes, but again, transformation is one of those things that it's cool, and we give it a pass because it's cool. But when you're trying to take realism seriously, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you just have to look at Battletech for that rationale. Land-air mechs, many of the original designs were literally just ripped off of Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Land-air mechs are horrendously impractical. They exist because somebody decided, well, why not? But nobody ever mass-produced them. There was only like a half dozen or so of them ever designed.
Let's attack them at once.
And while Gundam doesn't take its realism too hard, too seriously, at the same I mean, you've got humanoid robots in space, right? So, I mean, why would you? And yeah, there's the whole explanation they came up with the active mass balance automatic control, whatever, and back. But then why do things like the Draw C exist, which specifically lose the legs? Because why would you need legs in space? See, if I could get on top of the Adyuma, or what, however that word's meant to be pronounced. Oh boy. Oh wow, that hurts. Gundam's gonna get in a free hit. Yep. Oh, no more shield for you. The distance is key here, because that missile, when it turns into a shotgun blast, is a lot less damaging. And that's basically informed solely by distance. Armor's here. So in Zeta Gundam, they introduced all these transforming mobile suits, and in Double Zeta, they doubled down by having it transform and separate, sort of combining the whole G-Fighter shtick of the Gundam with the Zeta Gundam's transformation. And even when they were designing the model for that, they were like, how are we going to make this model so it doesn't just disintegrate the moment somebody picks it up? And they had some trouble. There's a reason why... Okay, well, part of it's thematically why Double Zeta looks kind of cartoonish in its proportions. Because Double Zeta started off as a flat-out comedy. But there's also the fact that it needed those cartoonish proportions so that it wouldn't just disintegrate, considering all the joints and stuff they had to cram into it. You interrupted my attack. That was an extremely close dodge, and I just punched Armoro to death. I just, literally, because Ashimar's got no melee weapon, it just punches.
Alright, let's get out of here.
I am curious why the mobile suit designer for Gundam Unicorn gave so many of them a very prominent pelvis hook. Like, sure, man. Why? I mean, the Rizel, it makes sense because it was a feature of the Methus, and it was there to give the body more structural cohesion, or at least appeared structural cohesion, because when the chest rotates forward, it sort of connects with the pelvic hook and makes a continuous loop. And the same thing sort of happens with the Rizel, but why did the Angsha, or whatever, have that? Because the pelvic hook just kind of sticks out when it's in its mobile armor mode. It doesn't make a whole lot of... It's not like it's a reused part, because it's a completely different thing from the Rizel. I don't know, maybe somebody was just being funny. I mean, let's not forget that the creators of beloved fictitious universes also have a sense of humor. Sometimes they put a thing in there just to put a thing in there because it was funny. They were having a bad day and decided to make a thing. I mean, the Ashamar in and of itself could be considered falling under that heading. The thing, it's supposed to be a saucer, but because the center of it is a different color from the rest, it looks like a donut. It is a flying donut.
If you wanted to fight, we could have done it anywhere. Why are you fighting here?
Because it's wool. So much for mobile suits. So much for Mark II. It's nothing but a joke. It's a toy.
Interesting side note that I may not have mentioned, but the Psycho Gundam's design was actually one of the entrants, because they had a competition for the design of the Zeta Gundam. And the Psycho Gundam was actually entered as a part of that competition, which of course lost, because it did not become the Zeta Gundam. I wouldn't be surprised if Z2, and it was also one of the entrants that lost. And that's part of the reason why the Psycho Gundam has a conspicuous nose cone pointing up. Because it probably would have assumed a different posture in its alt form in the original treatment of it. And then when they decided that, well, this is a cool design, let's use it anyway, and make it the Psycho Gundam, they of course warped it around a bit, because if it was this big thing that transformed into a jet fighter, it might not thematically work. So yeah, it probably would have like rolled over on its back, and then the nose cone would have been an actual nose cone. The leg transformation might have been a bit different, so it was less boxy. I don't know. I haven't seen the original treatment, but that's what I read in like a forum or one of the Gundam wikis, that it was originally going to be a Zeta Gundam, and they liked it enough to put it in the series, but they didn't do anything beyond that. And of course they had to redesign it, because it can't just look like a giant Zeta Gundam. That wouldn't work.
Not bad. They're reacting quickly.
I mean, never mind these like meta Gundam video games they have now, where instead of actually mobile suits, you're battling with the toys. And you've got different scales fighting other scales, which means that you end up with that kind of Smash Brothers thing where there's like a whatever scale Gundam fighting a high. You got like a perfect grade fighting a high grade, and it's appropriately hilariously larger than the high grade. I'm honestly curious, like, are they still doing high grade? I mean, I haven't really been in touch in that part of the fandom for a while, because they released real grade, and it's the high grade scale, but with they advertise as perfect grade quality, but you're not going to get perfect grade quality at that size. It doesn't matter what sophisticated plastic, space magic they're using. It's basically master grade quality in a high grade scale for a price somewhere in between, which is good. But the point is, if you can get master grade quality out of a high grade scale, why would you get a high grade? Unless that little bit of saved expense is that important. Because the initial feedback with their first runs of the real grades were, these things love falling apart. And of course, their models not necessarily intended to be handled, least of all by children. They're intended to be posed and put on a shelf and then reposed occasionally. But at the same time, you don't want to be setting it down on the shelf and have it break into a million pieces. I mean, I had bits falling off of my Gundam Thunderbolt. Because it's got all these little thrusters that are just, like, pegged in there with, like, the same material they used to make polycaps, and oh, the V-fin kept falling off. It was not good. I still have all the parts, thank God, but the thing, because it came with a stand, and it needed one, because it's got a massive backpack, because it's a space mobile suit. It doesn't really stand. It's supposed to be hovering in the vacuum of space, but it's a physical model that exists, so it has to stand. So they included this bare minimum stand for it, which is basically this tiny platform with two things that plug into it, and there's an adapter that slides onto a dovetail on the crotch of the mobile suit that pegs into it. And the problem is that the stand was so weak it could not hold up the weight of the model, and the model kept tipping over and falling over. And eventually, one time, it came off the stand and it snapped the peg on the adapter. So I have to have like a drill bit or something
All right, let's get out of
bore
here.
through the dovetail of the adapter and the peg, and then set like cut a nail, set a nail in there, glue the whole thing together. It's a huge project that I have no inclination to do right now. I haven't even finished. I'm staring at the runners of, like, right now I'm staring at the runners of a full armor unicorn Gundam, and I haven't even finished putting that together because the space I need, the time I need, I just don't have it anymore. I did say a while back that I was gonna put a link to the mobile suit I was referring to because I wanted to get 3 models. I have an affinity for 3s. I want to get 3 models. I want to get the G Defensor General Revel type Rizel. And I placed the order, and they ran out of stock, and I honestly couldn't afford it now if I wanted to. Now I'm kind of tempted, though, if I would really want that, or if I wouldn't prefer a Delta Plus. I mean, given the option, you'd get both. But with Master Grades running at like 80 USD, I ain't got that kind of scratch. Yeah, you can do like a dash glide with these mobile suits without transforming. You just have to... Because the transformation is triggered by using a dash while holding the boost button, which is X by default. So you basically fly up in the air with boost with X, and then you release X when you do the dash, and that will allow you to do a mid-air dash. Where is this kind of game for Gundam 00? Because I do appreciate this format for the Gundam universe, and we got it for oh it's late and having trouble thinking. We got it for Federation versus Zeon, the whole 0079 scene. We got it for Zeta Gundam, and we got it for Gundam Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny. But I mean, where's this for Gundam Wing? Where's this for Gundam 00? Because they've had their games, but not quite in this format. I mean, a lot of the video game love, I think, outside of like Super Robot Wars, went to the Universal Century timeline, which I appreciate because it's the OG Gundam timeline, and I honestly feel like these days it doesn't get as much love as it used to. I mean, they have the whole Hathaway thing out now, which I haven't seen, unfortunately. I mean, the funny part is when Gundam Unicorn was coming out as an OVA, everybody was like... They were sort of questioning the mobile suit designs because the designs seemed oddly reserved or restrained compared to what they had gotten used to with the sort of Seed Destiny giant backpacks or the kind of just Gundam Wing weirdness. Death Scythe with its huge wings. Oh, I forget... The one that had the extendo arm things, like that. There were all these weird gimmicks that sort of made their way into the universe, and going back to the Universal Century, where the only weird gimmick really was transformation, and they kind of backpedaled on that because it was a weird gimmick. And people were like, "These mobile suits seem so tame, it's refreshing," and it's like, well, yeah! Because they didn't start off looking ridiculous. They started off tame, and people just felt that they needed to up the ante again and again and again. Before you know it, you get hilarious bullshit. Thanks to Buran's efforts, the Aeug have been prevented from gaining a foothold on Earth. The remaining conflict will be fought in space. Buran's mission is over for now. However, weren't there other choices? Yes, the endless illusion of the special routes. We get it. We understand. Thank you. Now bugger off.